to speak your truth with love. My name's Ku Blackson, nationally best-selling author of You Are the One. How do you speak your truth? Speaking your truth can sometimes be a challenging, difficult, and scary thing, which is why so many of us, in many situations and many relationships, we hold our truth back. We hide our truth. We pretend to feel things that we don't. Here's the challenge. When we hold back our truth, when we hold back what we really feel in an effort to avoid confrontation, to not rock the boat, to avoid conflict, to be loved, the fear of if I really speak my truth and you know who I really am, you might not love me. And so we hide parts of ourselves and hold back parts of our authentic nature and what we really feel to stay connected, to not break up. And the challenge is when we hold back our truth, when we hold back our authentic nature, there is a part of us deep down that doesn't feel good. And I think when we hold back our truth and we suppress our truth, over time it leads to frustration, it leads to resentment, it leads to depression. It typically never ends well. Deep down we will unconsciously begin to resent and develop anger towards ourselves, which will often manifest in self-sabotage. We will often self-sabotage our projects, we'll self-sabotage relationships as an unconscious way, driven by a positive intention to break free from our current limited suppressive structure that we have set up by not speaking the truth. So we will sabotage our relationships sometimes as an unconscious way to break free of the structures that we have created that are limiting. And so speaking your truth takes courage. Speaking your truth is a risk. Here's the other challenge. When you don't speak your truth and you pretend to be someone that you're not, when you don't speak your truth and you hold your truth back and you hide parts of yourself, not only are you being fake and being false, but you end up, even when you are loved by people in your life, deep down it never feels real, it never feels good, because deep down you know that you're not really being loved. You're only being loved for who you're pretending to be, not who you really are. So that the love you're getting is not real. The love you're getting, in a sense, is false, is fake. So the love you're getting never really feels fulfilling and satisfying anyway, because you know that the relationship isn't really real. If they really knew who I really was, if they really knew how I really felt, they wouldn't really love me. And so I believe that the quickest way to live an authentic life is to speak your truth. The quickest way to develop real friendships and real relationships is to speak your truth. It can be scary to speak your truth, but please realize that I believe that speaking your truth is the most loving and compassionate thing you can do. Speaking your truth is the most respectful thing you can do in your relationships, because by speaking your truth, you're respecting another person. By speaking your truth, you're letting people know who you really are, where you're really at, and you give them an opportunity to choose how they want to really interact with you or not. When you don't speak your truth, people are operating under a false pretense of who you are, and they don't really have a choice based on the choice you're not giving them by not speaking your truth. We sometimes don't speak our truth because we feel guilty. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to hurt anyone. I believe that the bottom line, when you don't speak your truth, you are ultimately disrespecting and hurting someone anyway. Likely at some point someone's going to get hurt, because usually, not all the time, but usually, it's really hard to continue living a lie for the rest of your life. And if you don't speak your truth and you live a lie, in order to keep a relationship dynamic going, you kind of have to keep living that lie for the rest of the relationship, which is not fulfilling, is not enlivening, and which is why many times we don't feel truly fulfilled, satisfied, and alive in our relationships. So we sometimes feel afraid to speak our truth because we don't want to hurt someone. Or we think we're being mean if we say certain things that might be honest and truthful. Now, we have to be clear. Sometimes we think that speaking our truth is saying whatever we want. We have to be able to discern the difference between what is my truth and what is simply my projection and conditioning, because sometimes we think that our truth is because we feel something and that's what we feel, it's truth, when in fact it's simply our projection and based on our conditioning that is filtered through our nervous system, that is filtered through our pain, our trauma, our hurt. And so what we think is our truth, we end up projecting onto people, and we see people a certain way through the lens of our conditioning, so it's not necessarily our truth. So when you feel something, a trigger, an emotion, pain, hurt, something that you're feeling, it's always important, rather than to just blurt it out and speak it, because Coot said speak your truth, it's really great to take a step back, be in relationship with the emotion, be in relationship with the feeling, check that, process that feeling, all feelings remain present until fully felt, and see if that feeling dissolves, see if that feeling is real, see if that feeling has anything to do with the other person. Many times the things that we are feeling don't have anything to do with the other person. Maybe the other person triggered it, but it might have to do with your father, it might have to do with your mother. And the challenge is, in the name of speaking your truth, if you project your anger, your hurt, your perception onto them, you're not even in relation, we may not even be in relationship with the other person, but they're triggering certain feelings that were unresolved. So rather than just dumping your feelings in the name of speaking your truth on the other person, it's really great first to check yourself, process those feelings, maybe take responsibility, realize that the feelings I'm feeling that were triggered by the other person don't really have anything to do with the other person. And as you process those feelings, as you release the pain, the hurt, the guilt, the shame, the resentment, the sadness that was there previously that this person is triggering, then you'll be much more clear-minded, clear-hearted, and able to speak your authentic truth about how you really felt without making that person wrong or getting caught up in a blame or shame game, which never ends up well. And so, if there comes time for you to speak your truth and have a communication with someone in your life, someone that you know, a workmate, a soulmate, a lover, a husband, a child, a friend, couple of things. Number one, acknowledge your feeling. Acknowledge what you're feeling. Don't suppress your feeling, deny your feeling, acknowledge your feeling. Number two, which is what I referred to earlier, check your feeling and see where it's arising from, because it may have nothing to do with the other person. And if you have a communication with the other person without checking your feeling, likely you will project on the other person emotions and charge that has nothing to do with them. Check that and process that. Now, when you're sitting or standing or being in front of another person, I believe it's so important, first and foremost, to set up the context for the communication so that you speak your truth when the other person is actually able, they have the time, the space, the mindset where they're able to listen to you, so you're not just finding any moment and dumping what you feel onto the other person. And so let them know that you want to have an important communication with them, that you'd like to create the time and the space for you and them to have an important communication. Next key. Really let them know, before you even express what you're about to say, let that person know your intention for the communication. So rather than just saying, I feel this way, let them know that the reason I want to have this communication is because you're important to me. The relationship is important to me. I really love you. I care for you. And I'm feeling these feelings. And so it really helps when they know your intention for the communication, so that they're also not wondering why you're sharing. Sometimes when you share difficult feelings with people, they might feel you're breaking up with them. They might feel you're making them wrong. They might feel you're judging them. They might feel you're being superior. They might feel you're leaving them, ending the friendship, and that puts them on the defensive. You want to create a context where the person you're speaking your truth to is open enough to listen to what you have to say. So my intention for the communication is to clear the space so that we can have a more loving, transparent relationship. Okay. That can put the other person at ease, to relax, to be able to listen to you. The next important thing that is so important is when you express what you feel, that you take responsibility for what you feel and full ownership for what you feel. So you don't just dump what you feel onto another person by saying, you make me feel this way and you did this, which is really pointing the finger and blaming the other person. It's so important that you take full responsibility. How? Own how you feel. When you did X, Y, Z, I felt this way. I'm feeling this way. These emotions were triggered inside of me. Anger, pain, hurt. They were triggered inside of me. I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling this way. Rather than you make me feel. Ultimately, no one has the power to make you feel any way. And that is just getting caught up in a victim blame game. Pointing the finger, accusing another person, making them wrong, which typically will create more conflict and defensiveness from another person that you're communicating to. Even if what you feel is right. Here's the thing. You have a right to feel what you feel. Whether it's right or wrong, it's your feeling. No one can really argue with your feeling. It's your feeling, right? But when you start saying, you make me feel, not so accurate. When you say, I feel this way, even if they don't like it, it's your feeling, it's your experience, it's your subjective perception. It's your feeling, it's your body, it's your emotional, energetic body, so to speak, a universe. So you have a right to your feelings. So communicate what you're feeling with responsibility. I feel this way. Then you can check in with the other person and ask them to clarify what they heard you say through checking the perception checking. So what did you hear me say? You're wanting to make sure that they are understanding what you communicated, so there's no miscommunication. The other thing you can do when you speak your truth is then ask them to communicate and then for you to listen. When you communicate, perception check, then ask to see if they have anything to say, then the communication comes full circle and you can hear their perspective to see if there's some things that you weren't understanding from their perspective that can really give you an understanding of where they're at. Being able to put yourself in their shoes now and really listen brings the communication full circle. The last thing I want to say about speaking your truth is when you speak your truth, communicate to communicate. Do not communicate with an expectation or an attachment of how they're going to respond to you. When you communicate with the expectation that they're going to respond a certain way, they're going to apologize, they're going to say something, have some reaction, and you go into your communication with that expectation, likely it's going to set you up to be disappointed. So if you can make peace, the reason to speak your truth with responsibility, with love, with kindness, with compassion, the reason to speak your truth is not to get a response, but is simply to communicate so you can be complete. Then your sense of being complete is less dependent on how they react and how they don't react. Then it frees you up to communicate. That's it, simply put. They may respond, they may not respond, but you have done your part and you've taken responsibility for your part. Speaking your truth is freedom. You speak your truth for yourself out of your commitment to staying clear, to being complete, and honoring your relationships. I believe that when you speak your truth, ultimately, the truth serves everyone, even though it may not seem that way at first. And when you speak your truth, here's what I found. It might push another's buttons. It might challenge another person, but usually there's something in it for the other person that if they're willing, if they're available to the gift, it will cause them to grow. In any relationship, when there is some conflict, it usually means there is some deeper truth that isn't spoken. So if you want to stay clear within yourself, and if you want your relationships on any level to have a depth of authenticity, realness, and intimacy, keep the space clear by speaking your truth. Then you know where you're at, they know where you're at, you know where they're at, everyone knows where everyone is at, and then the love can flow. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's short video blog. Again, make sure you go to my website, kublaxon.com. Enter your name and your email to receive free gifts. Share this video with everyone in your life that you feel would benefit. And until then, love now.